Hi, I'm Mark Green from Wild Hair Organic Farm. We're outside of Tacoma, Washington, about 25 acres. We do mixed veggies, blueberries, raspberries, chicken eggs, and we sell almost exclusively to a CSA at this point. We have a farm store that's open. It coincides with our CSA pickup. All of our CSA happens on farm. So we started farming in 2007 and have been mostly organic since then, either organic or mixed. Yeah, we have a bunch of different record keeping systems. I think I'm going to be helpful in the sense that I can talk about I could talk to people who don't love keeping records. We don't love keeping records. So we found ways to do it without interrupting our workflow so much. That has been our biggest priority. It's hard to keep a record if you feel like it's pulling you out of the next immediate task. So we have built a bunch of record keeping systems that are individually organized, but they look very odd altogether. But they're catered really to disrupting workflow as little as possible. So on the one hand, all of our sales records are really tidy and confined because we use software for all of our sales. All of our sales happen through QuickBooks or Square. So we have point of sales that's recording everything for us, and all of our invoicing happens through QuickBooks. So on the sales end, it's simple, big spreadsheets, easy to navigate software. On the production end, though, we have several different systems. We have three different kinds of invoices that we have to keep for our inspection. And so the invoices, that all happens in the office. So one aspect that we'll need to pull out at our inspection are these binders from the office. One for amendments, receipts for amendments, one for seeds, all the seeds that we purchase, and one for chicken-related expenses, which is almost exclusively feed plus shavings. So I've got just a binder of chicken feed and other chicken-related expenses. And so they go in here, and it's simple. So that's just office work. Then the records that we keep out in the field, that's where we cater every record to the job that's being done. So our biggest amendments, our most often used, are going to have some kind of record keeping device, which is a fancy way to say clipboard or binder, right where we either load the equipment with the amendment or where we store the amendment. So in the moment that you need to go and get fertilizer for a field, you've got a clipboard right next to the fertilizer, and the clipboard lets you write down everything you need to know, which is really just a couple fields. So you're writing down the date, you're writing down how much fertilizer you're using, you're writing down what field you're taking it to. That way, when it's time to fertilize, you go and you fertilize, and it's really only about 30 seconds, 45 seconds to write down what you're doing. So we want to be able to keep the records right there in the moment. So depending on what the task is, we've set up the record keeping system to be as easy as possible. So something like lime, that's in a fixed location, it gets a clipboard. Fertilizer, fixed location, gets a clipboard. Same thing where we do our seeding, all of the soil mixes are right there, and we have a seeding list for the day. Those are either handwritten or printed out pages in a binder. And so on inspection day, we just have to gather clipboards and binders from the couple places that they're stashed around the farm. For the most part, our paperwork on any given year in any of these categories is not overwhelming. So a binder can hold 5 years of chicken feed invoices pretty easily. And so we just keep those in one spot. So the invoices, those we typically fit in one binder. Maybe seeds I need to replenish, but we just keep those in the office. Like a field note, like the lime record or the fertilizer record, we bring that into the office after the inspection. So everything comes in on the date of the inspection. And then those field records, except for the seed room ones, they don't go back out into the field. We just keep them in the office and we start a fresh one. So the record will be from inspection to inspection and not annual. It's flip-flopped for our seeding. I like to keep the seeding records year to year. So we just put those in the seed binder, take them back out to the seed room. And then at the end of the calendar year, we bring that in and start with a fresh binder out there. And I hang on to those records. This would be like a clipboard. Can we see any of that? For this was fertilizer, and it simply reads date, number of buckets, and I have for the inspector here a bucket equals 20 pounds if filled to the handles, and then the field or crop that it's going in. So whoever on my crew has to go and do some fertilizing has everything they need to know right here to record that for me. So on inspection day, I can get audited and we can add up all of the buckets that were spent and make sure that it checks out with the amount of fertilizer that we've ordered. So yeah, the point of this is to make it so everyone who might have to do the job can. It's not just like on a laptop in the office, and that you don't have to stop working for long to take care of it. I mean, this is not a lot of time to fill this out. It doesn't feel like an interruption, even in the middle of June, to write down where you're taking your 6 buckets of fertilizer to. And yeah, and then this would come in for the inspection day and we'd leave it inside and start with a fresh one for the next year. This looks, sloppy or casual or something, but the inspectors are super happy with this. This is totally organized enough for them. They don't need to see anything more. In fact, it's pretty convincing to have this out there, stationed out there, recording as you go. So this is the kind of record, like a field record, that's organized well enough that they're very, very happy with. You don't have to come inside and type this into a spreadsheet. Yeah, I mean, I think the reason that ours is so like cobbled together with different systems is because when we found one thing that we had to record that was frustrating, we wanted to come up with some way to make it less frustrating. So our records have looked the same for the last couple of years, but they changed a lot until they got to this point. We just realized like, no, it's annoying to have to go and find the binder for this one thing. So let's make this an electronic record, or vice versa. It's annoying for everybody to have to text me the harvest number on cherry tomatoes. Let's find a way for them to just record that themselves. We order seeds from 3 really big companies and a couple smaller ones. So we have to show, if we want to get a variety that is not organic, we have to show that none of our seed companies carry it organically. And for the most part, that's really easy, because if we're making the choice to get a seed that's not available organic, it's not available anywhere, and it's got some specific reason that it works better for our operation. So typically that can be shown just by, we retain the seed catalogs for these companies, and we can just show this variety is not available on high mowing where it would be organic. It's not available organic through any of our companies, and that's why we've ordered it. There have been times when we've ordered a seed that's not certified because all of the organic seed either is sold out or there was a crop failure in the seed industry. This doesn't come up very much for us, but what we do then, ordering seeds is something we do online. We do this with multiple tabs up for a bunch of hours one day in the winter. And so what we'll do to show that whatever Walla Walla Sweet seed crop failure there weren't any organic seeds available, we'll take screenshots of that on the seed producers catalog page. So we'll just show we couldn't have bought it organically from this company and this company and this company, and we just put those screenshots in a file folder on the computer. It's not elegant, but it hasn't come up very often, so we haven't had to have a more efficient system for that. Sometimes there's just, especially when we grow in the shoulder seasons, there's just a crop that is reliable and dependable that is not available organically anywhere. So we grow a bok choy, for instance, that you can't get the organic seed for. But bok choy is so fussy that it's nice, we just made the choice that's more important. So we get a non-organic, untreated seed for bok choy. It's easy to show that the organic or the non-organic untreated seeds we have are compliant because it'll show up in the invoice as untreated. That has to be written out in the invoice. And then you can also see in the catalog. So we work with one seed company that will offer some varieties as treated or untreated, but it will always show in the invoice as untreated and, you know, on the seed packet as well. But the invoice is where they'll look for that. For field activities, I think this can feel like a big hurdle for people who haven't had to record what they do on the farm before. And so I think this is something that I've had to sort of lobby for or like, convince my colleagues that it's worth it because it can feel like a big uptick in hassle in terms of paperwork or record keeping. So what we do at our farm that has always satisfied our inspectors, we have if we have a crew leader, most years we do, we have a crew leader. Part of their job is to record what they do at the like a diary of the day, what happened at the work day at the farm. Not in an incredible amount of detail, just we planted over here, then we planted over here, and then what we're weeding over here, something like that. Um, and they can choose whatever's most convenient for them, either to keep a running document that is just something that's really nice for us. It's searchable, so we like to have it. But they can either choose to keep a document, like some shared electronic document. And we also have a dummy email account set up, which is just a place where people can send an email every day on what happened that day. So it depends on the crew leader how they'd like to keep that. On years where we don't have a crew leader, that's what I'll do at the end of the day is just send an email to that email account. And it just is a diary of what we were doing at the farm. And it's really, really broad strokes, but you'll be able, if you're ever asked to tell the story on how the rutabagas got to be rutabagas, you'll be able to point to the day that you did the soil work there, if that's something that your inspector wants to see. So field activities, there's some kind of daily log being recorded, either by a crew member or myself. And that, like I said, can feel very frustrating, but one of our tricks is to try to find the records that you have to keep, try to find a way to make them valuable to you. And we have found having a searchable electronic story of every year has been really, really nice. When weather's kind of weird and you feel like you're running way behind on fava beans or something, because the field's just so wet, you can go and look and be like, oh no, this is only like 2 days later than last year. I'm going to be fine. So we found it really, really helpful, especially even planning out people's work weeks. Is it going to be an issue if someone takes this week off? We found it really, really nice to have some way to look and see what you did during a given week, the last year and the year before, and all of that. So those records have been really helpful to us. Yeah, amendments, that's complicated, right? There's a bunch of different things that you do there. So the habit we have is to just immediately put the invoices in the folder, and that just lives in the office forever. So you have an invoice history. And then the big amendments are things that anybody can use usually, and those are stashed at places. And like I mentioned, we have a physical record at that spot just so people can record it as they use it. But if something weird comes up on the farm and I maybe order some nematodes or something that wasn't part of the plan, we have to have a system to capture this kind of stuff. And so we'll have an invoice come through because I've ordered the nematodes, and we'll put that invoice right in the binder. And so the binder shows everything chronologically. So we got the date right there. And then we just have like a running list of the odds and ends for amendments. And so this is something that just requires a little discipline because the system requires you just to, be flexible when you're doing something random like this. So nematodes show up, and then I end up having an email chain with myself. I email myself. The subject line is amendments. It goes back years and years and years. And it's really just the random things that weren't ever part of the plan that I want to be able to show what day I used, where I used it, and why. So we'll have this particular product on our materials input list, and then we'll have an invoice for it, and then we'll have an email timestamped and everything from me on where I spent it and where I used it. So that's what we do for all the odds and ends, the little ones. And then anything that's regular or predictable, we have a dedicated system for. Yeah, harvest and storage. For us, when we harvest, there's like three broad categories of things that we harvest. Most of what we harvest is like we think of it as like a pick sheet. The CSA needs 900 heads of lettuce, and so 900 heads of lettuce go on a harvest list, and whatever else we need for that day goes on a harvest list. And those are the items that you're choosing the quantity for. And so um, we'll have an electronic version of the harvest list there because it's connected to an invoice. We're, billing it against the CSA's needs or the farm store's needs or a wholesale grower's needs. So we have an electronic record of the things that we're picking to order from the farm. And that's great. And then that turns into some kind of paper document that we share around the farm, depending on who's doing the harvesting. But there is the pick sheets are all stored electronically. So that's easy at audit time to pull those up. But then there are some crops that don't fall into that category, like sugar snap peas, where you just go and you harvest what you need to harvest. This is like the zucchini category. You go and the zucchini plants tell you how much there are, not the other way around. And so for these regular things, we have a different way of keeping those records because that's something that the whole crew is going to be doing. That's something we don't know the numbers in advance. And again, this is designed to be easy for the people doing the work. And at our farm, everybody who has worked here for the last several years has had a smartphone and wanted to use their phone on the farm. So they've been comfortable using their phone out in the field. So we actually have a Google sheet for certain kinds of bulk harvests. We call them the bulk harvests. So if you're out there, cherry tomatoes, beans, sugar snap peas, zucchini, these kinds of things that you're going to be harvesting regularly over the harvest window, but you don't, pick to order, you harvest whatever the plant has to offer. We've got a way of capturing that on a Google sheet that everyone shares. So someone will pull up the sheet and usually it's the crew leader out there, it'll be their responsibility. And then they'll fill out the form and it's simply date and what the crop was and how much of it. And then that gets tabulated really easily, the way the Google sheet is set up, that it becomes a spreadsheet. And so we can have everything, we can have those records for our own planning, and then it's easy to show the certifier. So yeah, that's pick to order. Those are sort of the bulk harvest. The other category of things that get harvested are like the once a year bulk harvests. And for us, we harvest most winter roots once a year. The rutabagas come out of the field one day and they go into storage. The winter squash and the pumpkins get harvested once and they go into storage. And these places are stored, they have dedicated storage spaces on the farm. So we go back to a clipboard and we just put the clipboard in the squash cooler, put the clipboard in the root cellar, and whatever comes in gets recorded right there. So we have three different methods, but that's because those kinds of crops behave in three different ways. And so it's really, really easy to learn those three things and just assemble them when the certifier comes. Okay, so storage labeling. This is something that the certifier is going to pay a little more attention to for us this year. It's not something we've been inspected on, and so this is new, so I can't really vouch for it. But what we've set out to do, everything on our farm is certified organic. So we don't have to worry about intermingling there. And so we are going to say that round stickers show at our farm that something is certified organic. And everything that comes out of the wash station, everything that comes out of the field is going to get a round sticker, and it's going to be one crop in whatever the container is, and it's going to have the date on the round sticker. And that'll serve, we're hoping, haven't been inspected on this, that'll serve as its unique identifier. So we'll be able to show lettuce, March 14th, and it's certified organic, which is kind of implied on our farm, but we do have to, according to the regs as they're being read now, we have to show that, yeah, we have to find a way to designate its status, which is certified. Most of our sales happen right here physically at the farm stand. People can also sign up for our shares online. So if you're ordering a CSA share, that is its own item electronically, right? So it's its own item on our website. And then if you were to come to buy groceries from us at the farm stand, CSA share is an item in our point of sale system. So whoever is working the register will have the option of clicking CSA on it. So we just can record CSA payments and CSA shares separately from all the other vegetable purchases that might be spelled out individually. And so the farm store has a number of different products to buy from, and they're all there at the register. So you check out just like at a regular store, maybe pay for a CSA share at the same time, maybe not. So you'd have a receipt there that just with all of the usual line items for all the different things. So there's a receipt and a recorded transaction for all of our produce. So as opposed to like you might be at a farmer's market where I do the math in my head and take your cash and you walk away, or we just like swipe a card for $20. Here, that $20 is actually spelled out at the register, and so it makes it really easy to do an audit. So we have two flocks of laying hens at any given time. Maybe for a couple of weeks at the end of the year, we might have three when the new chicks arrive. So we don't do any meat birds, and I haven't actually ever certified any meat. So I can't speak to that. But for laying hens, it's our setup is simple enough because we just have the two. They are a year apart. We keep them on the farm for 2 years, two full laying years. So it's easy to know who is who. We keep them spread out a little bit, two different corners of the farm, just so that they don't compete across the fence. We do that for yeah, for keeping them straight, and also I think they just behave better when there's a little distance between them. So we have two flocks, movable fence, pastured all the time. So we don't really have to we don't have to demonstrate any records for confinement, access to the out of doors. It's just implied in our setup. Um, so we don't keep a lot of records there because in our system plan, we describe what the housing arrangement will be for the chickens across their whole lifespan. And it's at every point, it meets the requirements. Yeah. So chicken feed is stored in a shipping container, and we have a clipboard in the shipping container saying how many buckets went out. And this is, I called it a clipboard, but that's wrong. This is just a calendar. Somebody gifts us a calendar at Christmas, and we just hang the calendar in there. And on the day, you write how many buckets you took. So when it's time to get audited, the inspector has no problem sitting down and adding those up from a physical calendar with Sharpies on it. I mean, that's all they need to see. And yeah, that suffices for them because they can run the audit from that. That kind of rough and easy field record is totally appropriate in this setting. So again, we're saved by the electronic story of all of our sales. Our eggs are an add-on for CSAs, and that's easy to record through the point of sales. Any extras, over that, especially at the um, busy time of year for the chickens to lay, those are sold retail right there at the farm stand. And so again, that would be recorded at the register. So sales are always easy to track for us. And we just write down how many eggs were washed on any given day. And so that is our harvest record. We don't count them when we harvest. We don't count them at before washing or at the time of washing. Once they're done being washed, we write that total down on a calendar. And again, on the inspection day, you just grab that calendar, bring it in, and they want to see how many eggs were laid in April. You pull out a calculator, add them up, and they're happy with that. Doesn't have to go into a computer. Our inspections tend to look like a walk around the farm for maybe 90 minutes or something like that. Ask a bunch of questions around the farm, and then we come into the office for that half of the inspection. So when we come into the office, uh, that's where we pull out our three binders, the chicken feed and then the amendments binder and then the seed binder. And they typically want to go through and see all of those invoices right at the beginning. So there's just a bunch of time while you let them leaf through the invoices. And they might ask you, oh, I see this seed's not organic on this particular invoice. Can you show me why you chose to buy that? And at that point, we can pull the seed catalogs out to show that nobody carried that seed organically, or that we have a screenshot showing it wasn't available from somebody who might have otherwise carried it. So there's a lot of time looking at invoices. They want to see the records of applications at that point. So then we bring all the clipboards out and they can look through there and make sure everything looks like it's in order. I have my odds and ends in terms of material inputs. Those would be the text chain or an email chain to myself. And those I typically will write out on one piece of paper just so they don't have to look at my phone, but that doesn't take long at all. So they have a chance to look at that and they might want to ask a question. Oh, can you show me the invoice for this one? Or you bought this particular product and I don't see it on your list. Where's it stashed? So it's just little moments of making sure that all of the different records add up. The invoices, the things you purchased, are reflected somewhere on a seating chart or an application chart somewhere. Well, because we do eggs are always on the list of things that are going to get audited. And so they'll pick a time frame, maybe a month or 2 months, and they'll want to see how much food we gave the chickens during this time frame. So they add up all of the food that we gave in this time frame, and then they go and make sure that it matches according to their standards with how many eggs we got. And that if you're pulling out way too many eggs for the food going in, that's going to raise some alarm bells. So that's what they're looking for there. So there'll always be a little bit of eggs that get audited some time frame, and then they'll pick a crop, and it might be like one year it was rutabagas, and they'll just basically say, tell me the story of this harvest date of rutabagas. So you have to show where you got the seed. You start right at the beginning. Oh, here's where these rutabagas are on the seed. And then you show that we got soil mix from this company, and look at the soil mix is all certified, and this is the date that we seeded them, and that this is the field that they went into. And they might ask you, oh, can you tell me what was in the field before, or something like that. So this is where the daily log that we keep comes into play. That doesn't come up every inspection, but it has. And then you have to show like the harvest record. What day were they harvested? Why were they harvested? Like what was um, the show me the story of the harvest record there. And then where are they now? Did you already sell them all? Can you show me the invoices on where they were sold? Or are they stored somewhere? Can you show me where they're stored? So you kind of have to tell the story on a crop. And yeah, that's what the records are. That's how they test your record keeping system. I think it's important to know that you can come up with a record keeping system that you like and then just sort of tweak it to make it meet their needs. You don't have to just start with how you picture them wanting it, them being the organic certifiers. Like they really are happy to work with the records that you keep. So, showing up with a shoebox full of pieces of paper that aren't sorted at all and have everything, that wouldn't really count as being organized. But showing up with like a whole bunch of different clipboards and binders, that does. And they've got no problem leafing through clipboards and binders if they seem to like record things the way that they are being applied on the farm. That's totally organized well enough. If you're somebody who really likes spreadsheets and really likes, putting everything in one spot, they're going to love that too. But if you have it just searchable, just searchable physically, leafing through it, or searchable online, that's going to be just fine. So I think it's really important to figure out how you're going to be able to keep the records, and then just make sure that they're catching all of the information that they need. And so I like to advocate for folks who don't like keeping records to just like find a way to make the record be helpful to you, and keep only the part that you have to disrupt your workflows as little as possible. And I just really want to stress that you get to come up with a record keeping system. It just has to capture what they want, but it doesn't have to look a particular way. But they have to be able to find the story of the rutabaga on the inspection day. So that's all the work it has to do. Other thing I want to let people know who would be transitioning is, if you make some mistakes on the farm, like if you use Roundup on a field, you're not going to be able to sell anything out of that field as organic. That's sort of like puts that field out of production for a couple of years. But if your record keeping isn't perfect on the first year, it's not like they're going to take your certification away. There's a time frame to make all of the changes to get on board. And so they'll look at your records. The way it works is the person doing the inspection on the day is removed from offering results. There's a really nice buffer in it. So they're just recording their experience during the inspection. And then you'll get a letter from the folks later, and they'll tell you like, okay, we weren't able to like establish where all of the lime went or something like that. So they might say, okay, you have to do a slightly better job keeping this particular record in the future. But that doesn't mean that your produce is no longer organic. There's some grace built into the system there. And I don't know, I'm not going to speak to where the limits are, but I don't want you to think you have to have it 100% perfect the first year. It's nice to meet you.